Good morning. Welcome to Hindu Newspaper Analysis, 10th December 2022. Today is International Human Rights Day. Human rights are very essential for all of us. Mother Teresa said, and I quote, "Human rights are not a privilege conferred by government. They are every human being's entitlement by virtue of his humanity." It is also mentioned by Nelson Mandela, to deny peoples their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. December 10th was chosen to celebrate as a Human Rights Day because to honor the United Nations General Assembly adoption and proclamation. On 10th December 1948, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the first global enunciation of human rights and one of the major achievements of the United Nations, was put forward. This year the theme is Dignity, Freedom and Justice for All. I am discussing you themes of the important national events or international events. The only reason is we can use these themes in general studies answers as well as in essay writing. Sometimes in non-UPSC exam, you will get MCQs based on themes. First important article: rain lashes Tamil Nadu coast as mango cyclone makes landfall. You need to understand, Tamil Nadu has a unique geography and climatic conditions. Tamil Nadu witnessed heavy rainfall due to northeast monsoon. And we are well aware about monsoon. It is a phenomena occurs in the tropical area, roughly between 20 degrees north and south latitudes. In India, we witness southwest monsoon, through which India receives 75% of rainfall from the month between June to September. Northeast monsoon, which will occur predominantly between the months of October and December. Northeast monsoon, often called as winter monsoon, at a small scale level, will appear throughout the South India. What are the factors behind the northeast monsoon? The first reason is change in wind pattern, in which after the withdrawal of southwest monsoon at the mid-October, the wind pattern rapidly changes from southwesterly to the northeasterly direction. Two, cyclonic activities, and this is the period in which you will find cyclonic activity in the North Indian Ocean region. And then global climate patterns, that is northeast monsoon influenced by the oscillations, El Nino oscillations and also Indian Ocean dipole oscillations and Madden-Julian oscillations. So these are the major reasons why we have northeast monsoon and cyclones. Next article talks about expand the food security net without any more delay. It was well noted that in the initial days of our independence, our agriculture was slightly backward. Due to less investments by the Britishers on agriculture production enhancement, we witnessed a lot of troubles. Thanks to the Green Revolution, through which we became agriculture surplus country. However, in India, poverty is a problematic issue, and due to poverty, people are unable to even have basic amenities like food, shelter, and even housing also. And it's a duty of government as per the DPSP's Article 47, which states that state shall provide nutrition and health facilities. So to provide nutritious food and to fulfill the duty of welfare state, governments initiated supplying of food grains at cheaper rate. One of such initiative is National Food Security Act. National Food Security Act, which was framed in 2013, aims to provide low-cost food grains to the Indian citizens. As per the Section 3, Clause 2 of the Act, 75% of rural areas and 50% of urban areas will be covered under this Act. Right now the coverage is limited to 800 million people. Apart from that, there is a clause in the Act under Section 9 which is mentioning that number of persons shall be calculated based on the census. However, from 2013 to 2022, till now the number is not updated. So there were a series of concerns about this. Concerns raised during the COVID time at peak stage because migrants, vulnerable people like destitutes or people who are orphans unable to get the ration. Of this, at that grave situation, Supreme Court received a writ petition under Article 32 and it raised questions about the government implementation of National Food Security Act. The writ petition, which is Problems and Miseries of Migrant Labor's Case 2020, raised the arguments about the government position. Supreme Court in this writ petition gave judgment and it said valuable points which are very essential for us to understand implementation of National Food Security Act. It says coverage should be raised from the present situation to 75% of village and 50% of urban to more areas. Genuine and justified people should be included and asked government should frame beyond the census. And also it said that population, if it is not available, you can also get the projection data from the sources. Projection of population meaning some government departments will estimate how population will be raised. So that can be used to update the National Food Security Act. Here we need to understand some important things. Government in its reply affidavit, it said that there is no data available as census is not updated. Second, it also raised that some sections of the people maybe became well-to-do, or can say they can beyond the poverty levels. Here government objection is, as the days goes on from 2013 to 2022, there were a rise in per capita. So government estimates and government suggested that this rise in per capita may reduce the vulnerable people in India. Unfortunately, government also mentioned that it doesn't have any data about it. Other raised some solutions to the government problem. Others suggested that Government of India has Registrar General of India, which will provide production data on census. 2. Government should also consider various parties' demands, that is universalization of National Food Security Act. So, Government of India can use these things. However, from the government point of view, and even Niti Aayog stated that there should be reduction in the coverage because people's livelihood option was raised. Now, here others stated that inequalities in India is rising. I would like to tell you that yes, it is true. According to UN reports, poverty in India sometimes even rised because of COVID. Apart from that, World Inequalities report mentioned that India having more amount of inequalities in time and again. It stated 1% of India's population controlling 22% of even India's national wealth. And even very recent, in one of our recordings, we discussed about the recent publication of All India Debts and Investment Survey. And it was mentioned that Gini index, which measures the inequality in India, is rising like anything. In 1992, it was 0.62, and in 2019, it is 0.68. It is well noted that Gini coefficient, if it is 0, it denotes the equality. If it is 1 or close to 1, it is showing the inequality. So India, the current Gini index is 0.68, which is slowly showing the inequalities. So at this point of time, it is high time to update, and it is high time to provide National Food Security Act for all the people. Here we need to appreciate some states like Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh, which are providing beyond the National Security Act, National Security Food Act, and it is well appreciable also. Next article talks about the G20 can be UN Security Council alternative. Other here giving a various highlighted, and you can say he giving some assumptions to the G20, which is can be an alternative for the United Nations Security Council. If you closely observe the G20 evolution, G20 is a body which evolves to tackle the financial crisis. In 1999, we have the G7 countries put forward the idea of G20, which includes 19 countries plus 1 European Union. Initially, it was the meeting between central banks and the finance ministers. Later, in 2008 crisis, when countries are unable to tackle the global recession or the slowdown in the economies, they started heads of the meeting. So head of the states met in America for the first time ever in 2008. In America, heads of the states meeting was conducted. Later, second meeting also conducted again in America. Finally, the yearly annual summit of G20 became a custom after in 2008 crisis. This year, India is holding the presidency, the 18th presidency of G20 now under India. Now we need to understand certain things here. Others suggesting that as United Nations Assembly unable to counter or tackle the Ukraine-Russia war, it is high time that G20 under the leadership of India can resolve these issues. India, with its impressive track record of tackling the global challenges during the time of 1947 under the umbrella of non-alignment, which involved in settling the conflict between North Korea and South Korea. So with that track record, India can again resolve the issues. If you ask me what is the India's role in maintaining global peace, during 1950s under the NAM, India tried to mediate peace between South Korea and North Korea. During the Gulf War crisis, during the Arab-Israel crisis, even India played an important role to help the peace and to support the Egypt at that crisis time. Now we need to understand that India again can play a role in resolving the issue. So this can boost India's demand of United Nations Permanent Council reforms also. So this is somewhat others critical arguments. We need to remember these points where what is the role of G20, like that we can remember India can bring the peace to the global geopolitical conflicts. Next article talks about Center introduce bill to modify ST list in 4 states. Try to understand that India is a diversified country, and to make this diversification into unified manner, that is into bring the unity, so Jawaharlal Nehru put forward several policies. One of the important policy of Jawaharlal Nehru is tribal Panchashil, which includes development in their own genus, selecting the people from their own community, limiting the schemes into simple manner, and measuring the output not by the amount they spent, measuring the output by the success of the implementation. So Tribal Panchashil is a document which guided the Indians. However, who are tribes? The question can be addressed by Article 366 Clause 25 and Article 366 Clause 25, which stated that tribes are those people which are deemed under Article 342. So who are tribes again? So there is one lack of definition about tribes. However, the lack of definition, or I can tell you the complexity in finding the tribes, was answered by Justice Lokur Committee in 1965. It stated tribal people will have certain characteristics. 1. Shyness in contacting outsiders. 2. Geographical isolation. 3. Cultural distinct. 4. Primitive traits. And 5. Backwardness. So these characters are useful in identifying the tribes. So who can identify the tribes? Article 342 says that President of India can notify along with the consultation of governor or even state government certain groups as a tribal groups. So after the notification of President of India, it is a duty of Parliament which can include or exclude the tribal groups. So this is the process which is happened generally. So right now, which is the bill is placed in Lok Sabha, in Parliament. Nari, Koravan, Kuru, Vikaran are the tribes from Tamil Nadu which is demanding for the entering into this list. Next article talks about ILO declaration adjusts countries to ensure labor production. You should remember this declaration says that it calls measures to include women participation in the labor force and promote equal pay. Further, it also mentioned that you need to have promotion of freedom of association, effective recognition of right, collective bargaining, so on and so forth. This is Singapore declaration of ILO. One has to remember for the prelims very clearly. Next article talks about BJP members move private bill on UCC. So just remember, UPSC even recently asked about private bill. So private member bill can be introduced by any non-minister. That is, even the ruling party MP can also introduce the bill. It can be called as private bill. So individual members of parliament can introduce this private bill. And this private bill can be a reflection of public matters. And the procedure is they should give the required notice to the house by 1 month, and only on Fridays it will be introduced. And this is the process of the private bill. Until now, around 14 numbers private bills were introduced in the houses, and 5 of them introduced in Rajya Sabha, and they became some laws also. Some examples are proceedings of legislatures, protection of publications bill 1956, Indian Penal Code Amendment Bill 1967, or introductions of such kind of bills. So one must remember the differences between these two bills. Private member bill can be introduced in any house of the parliament like the public bill. Private bill introduced by the member of parliament, whereas public bill introduced by the minister. And there should be 1 month notice for the private bill, and there should be 7 days notice before the public bill. And any one of the member can draft the bill, whereas particular departments or some consultations will go for the public bill. So these are the important articles in today's newspaper. Thank you so much and Jai Hind.